Hello, Noah.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
You
to meet you
too.
too.
Noah, in a Hollywood that seeks to give greater impetus to films with women, you make a film where they're secondary and dedicate yourself to telling the story of men. What was the decision to take that risk in this moment?
It was I guess at the time of making it, it didn't feel like taking a risk. It was just I had written this story about this man named Peter Pierce and his relationship with his sons, and it felt like to tell his story honestly at this moment in his life. It was about him and these two boys, and so that was kind of what emerged was this script, and I wanted to tell Peter's story and Mickey's story and Nick's story, and so it grew out of that. It wasn't like I had set out to make a movie about men when I sat down to write this. It was, I wrote this script and kind of fell for these characters, and then wanted to see it through.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin, Dunne, a pleasure to meet you, a big fan.
Oh, gracias.
Um, in the movie, you play the part of a husband who will become an ex-husband, but have to deal with their boys, their little boys, who are in troubles anytime. How do you feel making this part in the movie?
Um, Repeat that again though about the voice. What did you say?
Eh? The boys always in troubles, always in their own problems. How do you feel making this part in the film?
I felt disturbingly similar to this character. I had many of the ups and downs of this character. I am an ex-husband. I have been married. I am a father. I've lost a father. And I just sort of understood the period in life where you're just sort of in limbo and trying to understand what is going on around you, even when you don't understand yourself, which is why I think my character decides to descend on his son's bachelor party, for reasons that are even unclear to himself. So it was, I think we've all been through, periods of loss and indecision, and I just sort of tapped into that.
Thank you. Miles, a
Yes.
difficult part character, a man who is trying to understand his part in the family and in the world, but is struggling with himself, always fighting with himself. How do you feel in this character?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Griffin, I share a lot of similarities with Mickey. It's not a huge stretch for me to sort of play a character who's trying to figure out how they fit into society as someone that's sort of told from a young age that you don't fit into this sort of box of what everyone else is doing. But I thought it was really interesting to get to play a part like this where, as a gay character, typically the focus on that is more about the coming out part of it, or sort of the hardships that a lot of queer people face with coming out and dealing with family. But I thought it was very interesting to get to play someone who is in a family who accepts him, and especially a father who accepts him. I feel like that's sort of rare and doesn't get shown very often. And so I thought that it was very interesting to sort of get to play on that. And again, fun to get to play a character that I relate to in that situation of trying to fit in with straight men and family, where you feel sort of like the odd man out. But I like that in this movie, Mickey's not really treated that way. He's sort of just treated as any other normal person, which is sort of how it should be.
Thank you. Noah, your film narrates family relationships and how complex it is for men to open with other men. Which ways were the script and the idea of making in a dramedy?
Sorry, can you repeat that last part of the question? I'm sorry.
Okay. Where the script came together and the decision to make it a dramedy?
Yeah, I think the kind of this tone and spirit of the movie coalesced around Griffin's character, around Peter, and sort of the absurdity of his, the way that he convinces himself that he didn't know that the boys would be on this trip is, to me, and it kind of, a similar logic follows him, severing his father's hand to keep his parents together. And so I think there was this absurdity and sort of, how delusional Peter can be, and yet how, to me at least, how relatable he is. Even though he's deluded, he believes in his version of things so convincingly that I think we can all relate to that feeling. We all know what it's like to inhabit our own universe and be the center of our own story. And, I felt like it was fun to look at this family where they understand that about their father and still try and tolerate him. And so I think that was sort of the push and pull between the sort of the humor of the movie and I hope the tenderness of it.
In the end, this movie is a return to the family and the importance of closing the circles in it. How helpful is for all of you that idea?
My phone keeps cutting out. I'm sorry. Would you mind repeating that again? It just cut out.
Don't worry. In the end, this movie is about the family and the importance of closing the circles in the family. How helpful is for you that idea?
For me, it's very. I think that's what really drew me to the script. Was was how everyone in this family was going through their own turmoil, but that they all do come together. Brought around. I love the sort of heartfelt closing around a family crypt. It just sort of, appealed to my sentimentality and my dark sort of humor. And I think, I'm hoping audiences really, care about these characters in this family and are sort of glad that, they did all come together.
For you, Miles?
Yeah, same. I think that at the end of the day, all that really matters is relationships you form with people. And obviously family relationships and dynamics are very complicated and strange. And I think that this movie really takes a look at that. And I think everyone relates to that. We all have confusing, weird, dark, funny, strange relationships with our families. I certainly do. So yeah, I think that I think a lot of people relate to the movie in that sense, and it was very fun to just sort of get to make something about that as opposed to, some big crazy thing happening. It's like our families are pretty strange and crazy as it is, so it's I think just interesting to make a movie about that.
Thank you. Noah, when you're making the cast for this movie, did you think that you're going to blow our mind when put together Griffin Dunne with Rosanna Arquette?
It was not. I mean, it kind of happened one piece at a time. I think when Griffin was the first piece of the puzzle and was involved in the project for a long time, and Rosanna was sort of the final family member to be cast. And I had found Miles and James, and had the opportunity to do some work with Miles and James and Griffin on the script and some read-throughs. And, we're kind of trying to figure out who would make sense in this. And I think simultaneously we all kind of realized that Rosanna had so much history with that Griffin had so much history with Rosanna on screen and off, that they were old friends. And that if Griffin had called her and asked her if she would be willing to jump on board with us for a week, that she might be up for it. And so I really was lucky to have somebody of Rosanna's stature be willing to come along on this ride in a smaller part, but I think gave that role some real heft.
Thank you. And just for finish, Toulouse serves as a great counterpart of the protagonist Internet Storm. Why to go there? Why not Hawaii? Why not other place? Why Toulouse?
I had been to Tulum a few times and was kind of intrigued by watching what was happening to it over the years as it became more of a party destination and less of, kind of what it was once known as this kind of pristine, untouched, unspoiled, and then it was kind of known for its more earthy, hippie yoga stuff. And now it's kind of feels like, almost has like a Cancun aspect to it. It's a party destination. And I felt like it represented the contradictions of the boys in the movie, that there are kind of these sensitive guys, but so it's like, it doesn't make sense for them to go to Vegas. But they do want to go somewhere that they can have fun and feel like they're on the bachelor party. And so I felt like Tulum was sort of this perfect, complicated place of all of these things that kind of represented all of these characters in a sort of bizarre, unexpected way. And then also just the humor of Griffin's character, Peter Pierce, going to Tulum was always just very funny to me. Like I didn't think him going to Hawaii would be funny or absurd in the same way. It was just absurd seeming that Peter Pierce has booked a trip to Tulum for a weekend in 2023. And yeah, I just always kind of like, I think throughout all of the years of trying to make this movie, that always remained funny to me.
So thank you. Mike, thank you. Mr. Dunne, very thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for your questions.